We will now continue to explain the 21st lecture of the Compassion series. Today's topic is how to train one's mind in order to be consistent with the teachings of the Diamond Sutra. The Diamond Sutra is a rather profound Buddhist sutra. It explains how we become a Buddha and enter into the Dharma realm, as well as how we can train our mind in our daily life in order to be in line with the teachings. This sutra explains all of these important teachings. As it was written in an ancient text and has a long history, you will find that many explanations only allow us to understand the meaning literally. But in fact, it is rarely mentioned on how to practice the Dharma with daily life. In order to make it easier for everyone to grasp, understand and apply the Diamond Sutra, we will use some cases in conjunction with the Diamond Sutra to teach you how to train one's mind starting from this 21st lecture today. The reason is that the first 20 lectures have given a detailed summary of the most profound and difficult things, including what we have to face after death, what phenomena there are, and why we need to apply the Diamond Sutra, and why we need to work with the Great Perfection, and so on. In fact, I have already given a detailed and summary explanation. But how to apply the Diamond Sutra, and even practice in conjunction with the Great Perfection in the future? In particular, is there a simple way when it comes to the mind training? This is the focus that we would like to explain. The most profound content and many terminologies have already been explained. Now, from today's session onwards, we will use a simple method to explain in the form of cases. But before that, we have to introduce the Diamond Sutra again. The Diamond Sutra has not been taught completely. We have only taught 1/3 of it, and we will continue to teach it. Each paragraph will be explained with some cases, so that it will be easier for you to understand and know how to practice in daily life. In fact, the origin of the Diamond Sutra is that there was an elder named Subhuti who asked the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni this question: we train our minds and practice the Dharma in daily life and in meditation, but I don't know where I should put my mind and thoughts. Should I visualize the appearance of the Buddha and Bodhisattva, the environment of the Buddha's pure land, or other things in my Dharma practice? So, he asked the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni, how should my mind be abided by? Abide means hold. That is, what should I be thinking about? Where should my mind abide and where should it be held? What is the situation? And even if I want to stay there to think and visualize a few things, I still have some emotional ups and downs, and there are many deluded thoughts. So, he asked again, how should my thoughts be subdued? How can I subside the deluded thoughts? How to deal with thoughts that are full of delusions? The Lord Buddha Shakyamuni then taught him 2 oral pith instructions, which we often mentioned in the past 20 sessions. In fact, we have taught the Diamond Sutra up to this paragraph. The origin of this passage is that at that time, the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni explained a number of pith instructions to Elder Subhuti, who found it very difficult to understand and very profound. Are there any other sentient beings who can understand it and know how to apply? Is it really possible? Upon hearing that, the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni reacted very strongly. He criticized the respected elder in public. The Lord Buddha Shakyamuni said, "You must not say that." That is, he should not say such a statement. He then explained the reason. Do you know that many sentient beings have already planted their merits deeply in front of immeasurable millions and billions of Buddhas? The merits they have accumulated are very deep. So, even if the Buddha has already attained nirvana, after a long time, 2,000 years later, there will be sentient beings who can still understand. Upon hearing these chapters and sentences, even some people who just hear a certain passage, a sentence or a certain chapter, there may arise in them a single thought of pure belief, even if he does not completely believe it, but only has a thought that he believes it very much and has a pure understanding. Do you know that, Subhuti? Tathagatas know and see all. The Buddha will see him and know clearly what his realizing and knowing is. These sentient beings will thus acquire such immeasurable virtuous merits. Because of this, sentient beings obtain immeasurable virtuous merits. Of course, one can understand it only by accumulating a lot of merits in the past. Because he gives rise to one thought of pure belief, and also because the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas fully comprehend the ability of his realizing and knowing, he will be blessed, protected and helped by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, so that he is able to accumulate immeasurable virtuous merits. Why is this so? I will read the next paragraph of the scripture once. As I have already explained it before, I will not go into details here. Why is this so? These sentient beings no longer abide in the notions of a self, of others, of sentient beings, of longevity, of Dharma, and of non-Dharma. Why is this so? If these sentient beings adopt such notions in their minds, they are attached to the notions of a self, of others, of sentient beings, of longevity. If they adopt the notions of Dharma, they are attached to the notions of a self, of others, of sentient beings, of longevity. Why is this so? If they adopt the notions of non-Dharma, they are attached to the notions of a self, of others, of sentient beings, of longevity. Therefore, one should neither adopt the notions of Dharma, nor adopt the notions of non-Dharma. This is the reason why the Tathagata always said, "You bhikshus should know that the Dharma I expound is likened to a raft, even Dharma should be abandoned, let alone non-Dharma." This paragraph has been explained before. It has been explained since lecture 11. This session will use a number of actual examples and cases to explain it again, so you will have a clearer understanding. If you want to revisit how this paragraph was explained before, please refer to the 11th and 12th lectures of the Visualization Practice of Compassion and Bodhicitta series, where there are detailed explanations. Now let's take a look at one sentence. To remind you of previous explanation, and to summarize our explanations, let's take a look at this sentence, which is an extract from the passage of the sutra just mentioned. Why is this so? Why can these sentient beings get immeasurable virtuous merits with just one thought of pure belief, and even reach the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, such that the Buddhas can fully understand their perception? These sentient beings, because these sentient beings no longer abide in the notions of a self. They have not abided in the notions of a self, of others, of sentient beings, of longevity, of Dharma, and of non-Dharma. These attachments no longer exist. There are two most important oral pith instructions in the Diamond Sutra. One is, should not abide anywhere and do not abide in notions. Your mind should not stay in any place, especially you should not stay, or attach to notions. Notions refer to forms, thinkings, and views. These are all notions. Don't be attached to them. What does it mean? In fact, it is clearly explained in the sutra. That is, do not abide in the notions of 6 dusts, and do not abide in the 4 notions. 6 dusts are form dust, sound dust, odor dust, taste dust, tactile sensation dust, Dharma dust. These 6 kinds of polluting dusts were explained in the 7th lecture of the Compassion series. The 4 notions refer to the notions of a self, of others, of sentient beings, of longevity. These were explained in the 6th lecture of the Compassion series. Note that it is not just that the person no longer has the 4 notions, that is, no longer has the notions of a self, of others, of sentient beings, of longevity. It is not that simple. It also includes neither abide in the notions of Dharma, nor abide in the notions of non-Dharma. Now let's take a look at what these are. In short, remember that non-abiding in notions means not abiding in the notions of 6 dusts and the 4 notions. The notion of a self means the attachment to one's own thoughts, especially focusing on all the things that I own, the things that I imagine and the things that I think are right, and all the attachments to one's own thoughts. Notion of others is when you interact with all people, which refers to human beings, and that you develop attachments to their thoughts, ideas and appearances. These are called the notion of others. Notion of sentient beings refers not only interactions with human beings, but also animals, ghosts, asuras, beings in the heaven realm, and all other sentient beings. When you interact with them, or develop attachments to them in terms of thoughts and understandings, these are called the notion of sentient beings. For example, you like immortals very much. This celestial being is very powerful. You hope to be prosperous by worshipping him. That means you are obsessed with the notion of sentient beings. Or, you are very scared of ghosts, and when you see ghosting you will be so scared that you will cry. This means that you are attached to the notion of sentient beings. Or if you are particularly fond of a certain kind of pet, for example, dogs, it means that you are attached to dogs as a kind of sentient being. These are called the notion of sentient beings. What is the notion of longevity? The notion of longevity is the idea of being obsessed with longevity, eternal life, a Buddha, Bodhisattva, or a deity. One is very pleased to be able to visualize oneself as a deity, feeling that one will definitely succeed in one's Dharma practice. Or if I respect a certain God and feel that he can give me eternal life, I will have no fear whenever I see his appearance. These are called the notion of longevity. Or, I even feel that I am superior to others, and I have already visualized myself as a deity, that means I am a Buddha. This is also being obsessed with the notion of longevity. What is no longer abide in the notions of Dharma? The notions of Dharma refers to all dharmas. If you cling to any one of the dharmas, many dharmas, or even 10,000 of dharmas within all dharmas, regardless of the number you are attached to, as long as you are attached to any dharma within all dharmas, then you are obsessed with the method or situation in the dualistic or multiplistic state. All methods in the world, and even all dharmas, are dualistic or multiplistic. Whether it is a phenomenon, idea, or form, a solution or method, it belongs to one of all dharmas, and it is something that belongs to dualistic or multiplistic state. It will prevent you from entering the Dharma realm, the state of oneness. That is why Buddha Shakyamuni said that one must clear all these, and do not cling to all dharmas in the dualistic or multiplistic state. This is called no longer abide in the notions of Dharma. We generally call these as conditioned dharmas, feeling that something must be done. They are called conditioned dharmas. What is no longer abide in the notions of non-dharma? The notions of non-dharma means something that is not dualistic or multiplistic. Anything that is not the state of dualistic or multiplistic is the state of oneness. Even if it is a teaching of oneness, such as those that help you to visualize emptiness, neither existence nor voidness, which can help you to attain Buddhahood, or ways to enter the state of oneness, you should not attach to it. This is called no longer abide in the notions of non-dharma. Why? As the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni said, it is equivalent to using a method of the state of oneness, such as emptiness, to help you enter the Dharma realm, which is the same as using a raft to cross the river and reach the other shore. Would you still carry the raft on your back once you have landed the other shore? Certainly not. The raft is just a tool to help you reach a certain location. Once you have arrived, do you still need to be attached to it, or carry it on your back while walking? You do not need to. The teaching of oneness is the same. It has already helped you enter the Dharma realm, the state of oneness. If you continue to be attached to this method, it will become something dualistic or multiplistic, which will cause you to be withdrawn from the Dharma realm even if you have already entered it. So do not even be attached to the notions of non-dharma, that is, no longer abide in the notions of non-dharma. This is the meaning of this sentence explained by the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni. Why do I need to extract this sentence specifically to explain it? It is because I need to explain the whole sentence in conjunction with a case. I specially take out this sentence and explain the 6 notions, thinking, and views repeatedly, so that you can understand the case more easily. As for no longer abide in the notions of non-dharma, commonly known as unconditioned dharmas. It is to achieve the 6 formless states, as what the sentence I extracted points out, before you can truly realize that emptiness and enter the Dharma realm. What is the next paragraph? This paragraph is what we want to explain. What I said just now is a recap, summarizing the teachings of the past 20 lectures. Now we are going to explain the content of lecture 21. In the following paragraph, the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni said this. Elder Subhuti, what do you think? What is your opinion? Has the Tathagata obtained Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi? The Tathagata is the Buddha. Anuttara is unsurpassed, meaning that there is nothing above it and nothing can surpass it. Nothing can be more powerful than it. Samyak means well-balanced and equally abiding. Sambodhi means complete and perfect enlightenment. Samyak Sambodhi means 100% well-balanced and equally abiding, without any deviation of awareness. That is, to be able to attain Buddhahood. Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi is interpreted as unsurpassed perfect enlightenment. It means that you have restored 100% unbiased awareness, and you have officially become a Buddha. The Lord Buddha Shakyamuni asked Subhuti, what is your opinion? Has the Buddha attained 100% unbiased awareness? Does the Tathagata cling to his saying? Tathagata is Buddha. Does the Tathagata's mind hold on to the idea of his saying? His saying means his teachings of Dharma, teaching you how to enter the state of oneness. Do you think that the Tathagata will cling to the thoughts of the Dharma he teaches? This is the meaning of, does the Tathagata cling to his saying? Subhuti replied at the time, as I understand the meaning of the Buddha's teaching, just as I understand the meaning of what Buddha says, there is no definite Dharma, in fact, everything is arisen from causes and conditions, and there is no certainty. When a certain cause matches a certain condition, a certain phenomenon will occur. But when another cause is added, it will cause a change. Or, when another condition is added, it will also cause a change. Then, the matter will be different again. So, there is no certainty. According to my understanding of the Buddhist holy Dharma, I feel that everything is not certain. This is Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, the unbiased perfect enlightenment. And there is not a certain Dharma for a Tathagata to expound, because everyone has different causes and conditions of enlightenment, and so there is no certain Dharma to enable sentient beings to be enlightened. You may give one teaching to A and another teaching to B, and there may even be contradictions, or inconsistencies between the two teachings. You may also give another teaching to C. Why is that different teachings are given to different people? Is there even a possibility of deviations or conflicts? You will have this kind of doubt. The reason is that everyone's dead knots are located differently. In order to untie the dead knots, different methods will be preached. Everyone's karma and death knots are different, and the barriers of karmic creditors, who prevent people from enlightenment, are also different. Karma can be heavy or light, and some can be more violent. Therefore, the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni and gurus will adopt different methods to teach their disciples. These methods are not always understandable by ordinary people. You will find that each is different, so there is no certain method. So Subhuti said, there is no certain Dharma for a Tathagata to say. That is, there is no certain method. It is not like replaying a tape repeatedly. That is, the teachings of the Buddha cannot be replayed with a tape recorder to cater for all sentient beings. This is what it means. Unsurpassed perfect enlightenment is the same as the awareness of the state of oneness. He said, why? The Dharma said by a Tathagata, because all the Dharma said by the Buddha is the awareness of the state of oneness which helps sentient beings to restore their state of oneness, and there are no fixed ways for a Tathagata to explain. Because each sentient being is different, everything expounded by the Tathagata comes naturally out of the awareness of the state of oneness. It is expounded in response to the cause and condition of sentient beings. There is no attachment to just one specific Dharma that can suit for all people. It is precisely because of this that all the Dharma Tathagata said should not be taken. Since there is no fixed Dharma, one should not cling to a certain Dharma said by the Buddha. Because it is what the Buddha said, it should stay the same, it will never change, or it will always be played back with this same Dharma as a tape recorder, which is not the case. Therefore, all the Dharma Tathagata said should not be taken. It means that you should not be attached, because the Dharma expounded by the Tathagata is to enable sentient beings to know and realize the Dharma nature, and restore the awareness of the state of oneness. Since it is to enable you to restore your awareness of the state of oneness, the Dharma that the Buddha preaches must not cause sentient beings to cling to any notions, thinking, views, and methods, etc. So, his teachings must not be attached to. Sentient beings should not be attached to these teachings. Even if you have heard the teachings of the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni in your dreams or in meditation, or even when the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni was alive in those days, and can you record and copy his teachings, and teach them to your future disciples in the same way? You can only explain his principles and rationales, but you cannot keep replaying them like tapes, thinking that you can help them. This is because each sentient being has different circumstances of enlightenment and different knots that need to be untied. You cannot be obsessive in this way. Not to be spoken. It means that you should not cling to what is said, and not to hold on to the words spoken by the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni, because his teachings were given in response to different situations and objects. Therefore, one should not be attached to the words said by the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni. This is what this sentence means. Non-dharma, not non-dharma. Non-dharma refers to conditioned dharmas, and not non-dharma means unconditioned dharmas. Both conditioned dharmas and unconditioned dharmas should not be attached. Why is it so? Why is this being said? As explained earlier, non-dharma is conditioned dharmas in the dualistic or multiplistic state, while not non-dharma is unconditioned dharmas of oneness, such as the teachings of emptiness, neither existence nor voidness. We cannot cling to any of these two teachings. Why? Why can't we even cling to these? Can't we persist in the practice of emptiness? As the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni states, all sages and men of virtue are based on unconditioned dharmas, and there is a difference. Because for all sages and men of virtue, no matter how great the Dharma practitioners or saints they are, they practice the holy Dharma with unconditioned dharmas. Depending on the level of cultivation, each sage has different degree of comprehension towards the awareness of the state of oneness and different degree of enlightenment. They have not yet reached 100%, without deviation, unbiased perfect enlightenment, to formally become a Buddha and enter the state of Dharma realm. They still practice the Dharma individually with unconditioned dharmas, so they have different levels of understanding and different levels of enlightenment. When he is your guru teaching you, he will use his level of understanding to explain to you. You will find that different master has different ways to expound his Dharma teachings. Which one is right, and which one is wrong? Or it cannot be said to be wrong, but which one still has not reached the ultimate level? Who scores 60 points? Who scores 70 points? And who scores 80 points? The Lord Buddha Shakyamuni meant that one should not be attached, even if it is conditioned dharmas, or unconditioned dharmas, because you do not know to what extent of his level. For example, your guru scores 80 points. You think he is incredible. You only follow and listen to him, and no one else. Even if you are very good and you can do better than your guru, you can only achieve 81 points. But if your comprehension ability is low and you can only understand half of it, then you only have 40 points. Even if you are as good as him, you can only score 80 points, and you still have 20 points to go. So, it means that you cannot be attached. No matter who they are, they all have different levels, and you cannot be attached. But not being attached does not mean that you cannot be taught by your guru. You still have to be taught by him, and you still have to respect him and understand his teaching. But when you have practiced the Dharma and scored 80 points, you need to find someone who scores 85 points if you want to improve. When you reach 85 points, you need to find someone who scores 90 points. After you achieve 90 points, you can find someone who scores 100 points. Or you can achieve 100 points through self-study. But if you are attached to one method only, you may indeed stop moving. Then if you want to go further to understand and score 20 points more to reach 100, it will be impossible. It is like that you shut your own way out, and give yourself no space. So, no matter how advanced your guru or sage is, and how many points they score, we still cannot be attached. We must reserve a space for ourselves to continue to study and improve. I hope to explain this paragraph clearly, because many people do not know how to apply it after the explanation. Why did the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni teach this passage, and what did he hope the sentient beings to understand? I will explain clearly here to let you know. So, we should not cling to these different levels of unconditioned dharmas and believe that it is absolutely correct. We cannot think like this. At best, it has no deviation, but it still has room for improvement. In fact, these are relatively dualistic and multiplistic methods, so one should not be attached to them. Now I will explain a case, combining the two paragraphs from the Diamond Sutra I explained earlier, to help you practice the teachings of the Diamond Sutra in your daily life. This case is actually one of the 10 retributions that the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni still had to suffer after he became a Buddha. I have already explained one of the cases in the last session, the 20th lecture. In fact, I have already explained the first and the second key points of the mind training procedure and the practice method. I will explain more in this session. The title of this case is Shamiba Slanders Buddha. Buddha was slandered for adultery, from the upper volume of the Sutra of the Awakening Behavior spoken by the Buddha, also known as the Sutra of Strict and Honest Karmic Conditions, the Sutra of Shamiba Karmic Conditions spoken by the Buddha number 2. This is a real case. Once there was a beautiful woman named Shamiba, who was born into a noble Brahmin family and was a beauty. She was noble and beautiful, so she was very full of herself. So don't think that being mediocre in appearance is bad. Being mediocre in appearance will not cause trouble so easily. If you look beautiful and are born into a noble family, it is easy for you to be extremely arrogant. As a result, you can be easily attached to the notion of a self. You can be very nervous when someone judges on you. You will be very unpleased if he says that you do not seem to look beautiful today. These are attachments of the notion of a self, as a result of being full of oneself. This also caused trouble to her father, who was very rich, the richest man in the area. He thought that his daughter was so beautiful because of him. It was him who qualified to have such a beautiful daughter. To what extent was he attached to? Her father offered a lot of gold as a reward to anyone who could find any ugly spot on Shamiba's body within 90 days. He was so proud. This is also a kind of extreme arrogance. He was also obsessed with the notion of a self, thinking that he owned his daughter. Only he could give birth to such a beautiful daughter. Anyone who criticized her slightly would make him very angry. The notion of others means that he was very nervous about how others perceive him and his daughter. It does not include sentient beings of other realms such as realms of hungry ghosts, heavens and animals, but only the human realm. In his interactions with people, he was very concerned about how other people criticized his daughter. He would be very unhappy even if there were fewer words of praise, which may only be commending her looking great, but not praising her on her beauty. This is the notion of others, caring too much about others' view on oneself. He even offered gold and his wealth to make everyone spread the words that his daughter was incredible. He even rewarded people with gold for not being able to find any ugly spot on her daughter. He demanded people to overly praise her for being incredibly beautiful. To put it simply, he was using money to buy publicity, arrogantly thinking that his daughter was so beautiful that no one could match her, except for the Lord Buddha. So, he proposed the Lord Buddha to marry his daughter. The Buddha was a monk and would not marry his daughter. In addition, the Lord Buddha had already attained the perfect enlightenment, whose awareness was already in the state of oneness. He would not come up with any idea from the dualistic or multiplistic state, hoping to marry a beautiful woman. He would not be greedy, and would not find it helpful to sentient beings' Dharma practice, and to the propagation of the Dharma. So, he declined his request. To him, this kind of refusal was almost an extreme insult. This person was so obsessed with the Lord Buddha not to marry his daughter. He was obsessed with the notion of longevity, as he felt that the Lord Buddha was highly respected and superior than anyone and only he could match his daughter. It means that he was obsessed with the notions, appearances and forms or thinkings of being respected and superior to others. He was very obsessed with these thinkings. Therefore, Shamiba's father was obsessed with the notions of a self, of others, of longevity. Was he also obsessed with the notion of sentient beings? If he dreamed about the realm of hungry ghosts, some ghosts and gods told him that his daughter was not beautiful enough, or his daughter was not as beautiful as the beauties of the realm of heavens, but more beautiful than the ghosts of our realms of hells, maybe he would not be pleased too. Then he might have to spend money to invite people to host Dharma events, and report to realm of heavens or realm of hells that his daughter was the most beautiful with no flaws. If he did this, then he would be attached to the notion of sentient beings. For all sentient beings in any realm, he was also obsessed with the projection of their actions, thoughts, and thinking. This is to introduce to you what the four notions are. When Shamiba knew that the Lord Buddha refused to marry her, her self-esteem was severely damaged. She wondered whether she was not beautiful enough. It turned out that the Lord Buddha rejected this marriage in front of people of the whole country. The scandal soon spread for thousands of miles. Everybody knew that the Lord Buddha refused to marry her. She felt that it was a great insult, as she was extremely obsessed with other people's opinions. Everyone knew that the Lord Buddha refused to marry her. This is an obsession with the notion of others as well as the notion of longevity. Why does the Lord Buddha refuse to marry me? So she resented the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni so much that she wanted to take revenge. She then became the princess of Emperor Udayana. After she married the emperor, she had power, and so she could exercise it. One of the princesses of Emperor Udayana was a great believer in the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni. She often went to listen to the Dharma teachings, and sought advice from the disciples who had become arhats. In ancient text, 500 people means hundreds. It does not necessarily mean that there are exactly 500 people. In modern language, it means several hundred. Hundreds of disciples had become arhats under the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni. This princess, who believed deeply in the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni, often went to listen to the Dharma teaching and sought advice from the hundreds of disciples who had become arhats. Shamiba used money and her power to instigate others to spread rumors, saying that the princess, who believed in the Lord Buddha, had committed adultery with the Lord Buddha and his 500 arhats. The Lord Buddha and his disciples were all bad people. Because she hated the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni so much, she also hated the hundreds of arhats with the highest realizations who supported the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni. So, she came up with this vicious scheme to slander him and them. As a result, the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni implicated his disciples, suffered together, and they were all slandered for having committed adultery with Princess so-and-so. According to the sutra, the Lord Buddha then gathered these hundreds of arhats, and comforted everyone that this rumor would only last for 7 days. It would stop after 7 days. You don't have to worry about your reputation being damaged, and you don't have to worry about your families thinking that you had learnt Buddhism in such a way. As it turned out, the rumor only spread for 7 days and then disappeared. No one believed it anymore, and no one continued to spread it, and Shamiba eventually suffered the evil retribution of that life. I will not talk about what evil retribution she had, because I am explaining the notions of a self, of others, of longevity, of sentient beings, of Dharma and of non-Dharma, and how to remedy it. The sutra states like this. The Buddha was at the Anavatapta. The Buddha was in this place, along with 500 great bhikshus. He was with hundreds of great bhikshus. He gathered them together, and all of them had become arhats. Excel in 6 supernatural powers. They possessed 6 kinds of supernatural powers. Except for one bhikshu, Ananda. As mentioned before, Venerable Ananda was the servant of the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni. Due to various obstacles, he could not understand the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings very well. So, he was unable to do actual practice, and thus could not become an arhat. He only followed the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni and listened to his teachings. He served him by his side every day, so as to be able to listen to more Dharma teachings. Only until after the Lord Buddha entered the Mahaparinirvana, he made up his mind to concentrate on the Dharma practice, and later became an arhat. So at that time, the sutra stated that apart from him, there was not a single arhat who had not achieved high degree of realization. The Lord Buddha Shakyamuni specially summoned these high-level disciples and told them. At the time the Lord Buddha told Sariputra, the Lord Buddha spoke to Sariputra, who was one of his top 10 disciples. Sariputra's wisdom was renowned for being second to none. The Lord Buddha said to Sariputra, which was the same as saying to other 500 high-level disciples. In the far back of 91 kalpa, kalpa refers to a period of time. An antakalpa is equal to the time required for the universe to undergo formation, persistence, disintegration, annihilation, or establishing, residing, destroying until eventually emptying, which require a very, very long time. It does not refer to the formation, persistence, disintegration, annihilation of an earth, moon, or star, but a universe. A period of time as long as 91 kalpa. The Lord Buddha said that before the 91 kalpa, there was a king named Shanshaur, and the name of the city was also created by Shanshaur. At that time, there was a man named Yang Ruda in the city who was very learned and knowledgeable, and he had 500 students from the nobility. Being acclaimed in a city as knowledgeable is not necessarily the most noble one. It depends on who follows him to show whether he is great or not. There were 500 nobles, not a few but hundreds. Almost all nobles at the time and their children followed him to learn and respect him as a guru. You can imagine how respectful and noble he was. There was another person called Brahma. He was from a very rich family, and was the richest man in the area. His wife was named Jingyin, who was very beautiful and was the first beauty of her time. Brahma had a gentle personality, with no jealousy. Yang Ruda usually relied on the offerings of this great almsgiver Brahma. Because Brahma admired Yang Ruda very much, and thought that he was the most learned and knowledgeable person in the city, and the guru with the most followers. He must support him so he could plant the greatest virtuous merits. So, he made offerings to Yang Ruda. Brahma's wife, Jingyin, also made generous offerings to Yang Ruda. His husband instructed her that she must make good offerings to Yang Ruda. So, she also dedicated all the best offerings to him, and she would serve him wherever she was called. One day, there was a Pratyekabuddha named Shoshua. As explained in the previous session, a Pratyekabuddha is not someone who has attained Buddhahood, but a sage who is enlightened by oneself. His level is similar to that of an arhat. Nonetheless, as he was solitary realizes, he did not know how to observe many of the precepts. Because no one taught and explained the Buddhist holy Dharma to him, he did not know and could not understand the teachings of the state of oneness. At best, he could only reach the highest 5 levels of the form realm, the 5 heavens of non-returning. At the highest level, he can only liberate from samsara, but he cannot enter the Dharma realm and the state of oneness. Therefore, he cannot be called a Buddha. However, people respect Pratyekabuddha and add the word Buddha. So, I just follow the custom, but I must make it clear that a Pratyekabuddha does not reach such a high level. The highest level he can attain is the level of an arhat. While an arhat is taught by someone, the Pratyekabuddha is enlightened alone. This Pratyekabuddha, named Shoshuya, came to Brahma's door and begged for alms. Why did he knock at the door of the richest man? The reason was that he wanted to concentrate on Dharma practice, and did not want to run around for food and clothing, and so he came to the richest man to receive offerings, so that he can concentrate on his Dharma practice. Perhaps there might be other reasons. His purpose of coming to the door of the richest man, of course, was to receive offerings. Jingyin, the wife of the richest man, saw him. Jingyin saw that the Pratyekabuddha, whose behavior was steady and serene, like a saint who came for alms. So, she respected him very much. She immediately invited him to accept offerings at home. Jingyin filled the Pratyekabuddha's bowl with delicious food and provided a lot of offerings. She offered him the best. After receiving the offerings, the Pratyekabuddha Shoshuya did one thing. This Pratyekabuddha flew into the sky with his supernatural powers, and whirled back and forth 7 times. This was a very wrong approach. One would only do this when he is obsessed with forms. It was an attachment for him to demonstrate his supernatural powers. He was attached to the notion of a self. He felt that he was great, and should not accept others' offerings for nothing. He felt that after he had accepted the offering, he needed to show some real stuff in order for them to continue to support him. So, he flew around in the air, like the magician David Copperfield. If you are a saint and have realized the high-level principles, you should not have these attachments. Now you are flying around like performing magic, and then accepting offerings to support yourself. It is like performing magic after collecting money, belittling some really good teaching methods, and belittling the position of a Pratyekabuddha. It is an attachment which only appears when a Dharma practitioner has not practiced the Dharma to a required level. It is also an attachment to the notion of a self. He was obsessed with how others see him. Why did he do this? He was hoping to get the appraisal from others, thinking that he was great, so that he can continue receiving a certain kind of treatment. That is why he appeared to do such a thing. It means that he developed an attachment from the interactions with people. He was also obsessed with the notion of longevity, wanting to prove to others that he was a Pratyekabuddha, and he was superior to others. This is an obsession with the notion of longevity. For example, if you would like to show it to other sentient beings, such as ghosts and gods, then it is an attachment to the notion of sentient beings. Not sure if he had such a thought. Supposed he did not have this thought, but was just attached to these 3 notions. At that time, the people in the city witnessed this situation with their own eyes. Everyone saw him flying around the city. This is an attachment to the notion of others. He was hoping to receive the appraisal he wanted via the interactions with people. As expected, the people thought it was a miracle that someone was really flying in the sky. As a result, everyone came to make offerings to him. He did this because he wanted to get these offerings. Therefore, the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni had a precept to warn his disciples, especially those of high-level Dharma practice, that all disciples cannot perform magic tricks, or use supernatural powers to perform acrobatics when accepting offerings. Otherwise, it is a violation of precepts, an attachment to the notions of a self, of others, of longevity. The Lord Buddha commanded disciples not to do so. But this person was enlightened alone, and no one taught him, so he did not know these precepts, and did not know that it was an attachment. So, he did it. All the people who saw it at the time were also attached to the notions of a self, of others, of longevity, considering the Pratyekabuddha to be great. They thought it was amazing to witness this wonder with their own eyes. They felt that they must make offerings to him to plant virtuous merits for themselves. The rest of the people all developed such a bad attachment, because of the attachment of the Pratyekabuddha. This was a bad phenomenon, because it infected and contaminated the mental consciousness of other people. Jingyin, the first beauty, had special respect for the Pratyekabuddha. The offerings to him increased day by day, and the items became more and more valuable. On the other hand, Yang Ruda was relatively neglected, and something went wrong. Jingyin was also attached to the notions of a self, of others, of longevity, which was why that situation happened. Yang Ruda was jealous and asked his 500 students to spread the news to others, saying that he knew a fact via his supernatural powers. He asked the disciples to do one thing, to tell others this fact that Pratyekabuddha Suksu had violated the precepts, and should not be given any offering. He committed adultery with Jingyin, and he should not be treated so favorably, because they had committed adultery. He asked several disciples to spread it everywhere. He wanted to frame others in order to retaliate against him, because his offerings and treatment were reduced. He wanted to frame them in order to avenge Jingyin, and he was also robbed of the limelight by the Pratyekabuddha. This kind of revenge mentality is an attachment to the notion of a self and the notion of others. When you are evaluated by others with unfavorable opinion, you would like to frame those people, even the virtuous and capable ones. You are attached to the notion of longevity. When the people in the country heard about this scandal, they were in doubt. As the saying goes, good news goes on crutches while ill news runs apace. Some people believed it and some people did not. So, everybody discussed it. Those who did not believe it might be convinced to believe in it more. So, rumors were flying all over the sky. In fact, people could not tell whether this kind of rumors was true or not, but they would continue to spread. It is because they were all attached to the notions of a self, of others, of longevity. It took 7 years for these scandals to die down. It is possible that everyone also tried to avoid taboos. Perhaps the offerings were reduced. It could be that they even had no contact, avoided meeting each other, and so the rumors stopped after 7 years and there was no more spreading. However, the Pratyekabuddha was still unwilling to reconcile, thinking that people did not believe him. He felt that his flying skill was not powerful enough. So, he performed 18 more miraculous transformations before he passed away. Before he died, he still wanted to tell the world that he was the true saint, and the Pratyekabuddha was the most capable. So, he had to demonstrate his miraculous transformations once again. In fact, this is also a kind of attachment. You are going to pass away, and you should hope to enter the state of oneness. But before you leave, you still want to do something in a dualistic or multiplistic state, affecting more people, and creating more karma and more causes. This is an attachment to the notions of a self, of others, of sentient beings. You are obsessed with other people's views towards you and your status. I'm a Pratyekabuddha, and I can perform 17 more miraculous transformations, 18 altogether. This is also an attachment to the notion of longevity. This kind of attachment has a great impact on him. Why? I said that after death, everyone will have the opportunity to enter the state of the Dharma realm. Even if he had the opportunity to enter, he would not be able to succeed, because he was too obsessed with these notions, so he would not be able to enter. This is why the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni stated in the Diamond Sutra that these 4 notions must not be attached, otherwise even if one can enter the Dharma realm after death, one will immediately be withdrawn from it. At that time, everyone knew that this Pratyeka indeed had the status of a saint, truly different from others. They felt that Yang Ruda maliciously slandered the Pratyeka, who was truly capable of achieving this effect. This Pratyeka felt that it could clear the rumors about him by doing so, and he really succeeded. Why? Because these people were also very obsessed with the notions of a self, others, and longevity, thinking that his performance was wonderful and worth the price. It has repeatedly proved that all sentient beings are also attached to these notions. But in fact, the impact of this Pratyeka was so great that he could not enter the Dharma realm. Even if he entered, he would be exited out, and that was his fruition of requital. The Lord Buddha said to Sariputta, "I can now tell you and these 500 arhats, who have cultivated to the highest level, that I am the one who drag you down. Yang Ruda was my past incarnation of the previous 91 kalpa, and Brahma is today's Emperor Udayana. The first beauty Jingyin, the person who was falsely accused of committing adultery, is Shamiba, who is now falsely accusing me of adultery. On the other hand, the 500 students from the nobility at that time are the hundreds of the most accomplished arhats sitting here today." The Lord Buddha explained the earlier cause and later effect to them, as arhats can only see the cause and effect for 500 lifetimes. They cannot see anything prior to that. The Lord Buddha Shakyamuni was aware of their limitations, so he told them frankly that before the 91 kalpa, that is, far more than 500 lifetimes ago, you don't know the truth. I'm telling you now. This is another form of confession. The Lord Buddha said, "Because of my jealousy arisen at that time, I slandered that Pratyeka together with the past incarnation of the 500 arhats. We fell into hell together, because of the evil speech karma. It was I who caused the 500 of you to fall into hell, because you listened to me and spread this rumor. You endured all the tortures in hell, such as being fried and boiled in wok soup, and suffered all the torment in hell for countless time. Now, because of this remaining evil karma, has not yet been paid off, and is still a little bit short of being retributed, even though I've attained Buddhahood, I am still being slandered by Shamiba together with you. Because everyone has not yet finished the retribution, we still need to have the retribution for 7 days. Don't worry. It'll be over in 7 days. The root cause of a series of behaviors arising from jealousy in the mind is due to abiding in notions, the notions of a self, of others, of longevity. If you do not have any attachment, you will not have implicated hundreds of disciples into hell together. Now that you have become a Buddha and your disciples have become arhat, you still have to accept the remaining retribution. Imagine these are only small things, being jealous, spreading a few rumors only, or just saying a few words on the internet, slandering someone for adultery, only a few words. Does this require going to hell? Must those 500 people go to hell together? The other people who helped me share will also have to go to hell, so the internet is also very frightening. The spread among people can be so serious. The Lord Buddha told Sariputta, "You observe the Tathagata, you go and observe a Buddha who has attained such a high level. All afflictions have been eliminated. All virtuous deeds have been possessed. Despite such a merit, even with such great and profound merits, he still cannot be exempted from the previous causes and conditions, let alone those who are ignorant, dark and have not attained enlightenment. Failing to achieve no longer abide in the notions of a self, of others, of sentient beings, of longevity, of dharma, of non-dharma, those who fail to achieve this, meaning that they have not attained enlightenment. The people who have not attained enlightenment are of course very ignorant. The karmic hindrances will be much greater than ours, infinite times as much. The Lord Buddha also had to go through those remaining retributions, let alone you ordinary sentient beings. So, the only remedy is to follow the Diamond Sutra's oral pith instructions to practice. Firstly, should not abide anywhere and do not abide in notions. Do not abide in the notions of a self, of others, of longevity. The results and retributions of abiding in notions can be extended to post-Buddhahood, unless you have not left a physical body in a world of dualistic or multiplistic state, and have already entered the Dharma realm of the state of oneness. Otherwise, it is inevitable that you will suffer retribution. In other words, jealousy arises in the mind is the source of the evil and the root cause of disaster. I have explained what the four notions are, but I have not yet explained how to train one's mind based on this case in conjunction with the Diamond Sutra. Let's look at Yang Ruda, the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni's past incarnation. Yang Ruda was a Dharma practitioner, learned and knowledgeable, and followed by 500 noble disciples. He was well respected and was supported by great almsgivers. He reached a certain level of mind training. He must be learned and well educated in order to be respected by others. However, he still violated the precepts seriously at crucial point, which had a great impact. The crucial point was when Pratyekabuddha Shoshuer received better offerings and greater respect. When something hit him, he still committed violation of a grave precept. What is the crucial point that a Dharma practitioner misses? I can tell you there are differences between ordinary people and Dharma practitioners, and what is the key point where I see Dharma practitioners often fail? It is when a Dharma practitioner has gained some fame and reputation, is respected by others, and even when he is supported with offerings by a great almsgiver. Usually this is where he has reached a dangerous position, standing on the tip of a knife. All Dharma practitioners cannot escape the danger of being respected and supported with offerings by a great almsgiver. Most of them find it difficult to escape. This is where all Dharma practitioners need to be very careful. This is also where they abide in notions. Let's look at how Yang Ruda felt about himself, and why he would violate these precepts, and put himself in a miserable situation. First, he was left out by the almsgiver's wife Jingyin, so he resented her. This was his feeling, his thought, or a natural reaction, and he might not know about it. In short, he hated her, and so he decided to frame her. Second, the quantity and quality of the offerings he received were not as large as that of the Pratyekabuddha Shoshuer, which is why this situation occurred. Third, he felt that he was more knowledgeable than Pratyekabuddha Shoshuer. Fourth, he felt that he had more disciples than Pratyekabuddha Shoshuer, and all of them were nobles. Fifth, he felt that his reputation was much higher than that of Pratyekabuddha Shoshuer. Otherwise, there would not be so many celebrities learning Buddhism from him. Sixth, he felt that he had given lots of favors to the big donor and his wife. He felt that he had taught them lots of things. Now they immediately made more offerings to other people, who just performed some acrobatics, and made fewer offerings to him. I've taught you a lot of things, and he only put on a show. He was thinking like this. Seventh, he felt that supernatural powers were not the best proof in Dharma practice. You know how to do acrobatics and fly like David Copperfield. It doesn't mean that you know the Buddhist holy Dharma. Real Dharma is not the same as performing supernatural power, and do these things that abide in notions. This is not a proof of Dharma practice. Many other religious followers, who do not understand the Buddhist holy Dharma, can also fly in the sky. This is not the best proof of Dharma practice. Eighth, he felt that the wife of the big donor was only temporarily deceived by the supernatural powers. If he was able to use other methods to crack it, he could regain the previous respect and offerings. If I falsely accuse you of committing adultery with others, the big donor will divorce you and find another wife. The big donor will treat me better, so he can restore his previous offerings to me. He was thinking about these things, all of which are abiding in notions. Let's look at the first point. He was left out by Jingyin, which made him developing hatred. Hatred is usually associated with ignorance. When someone is angry, he loses his wisdom and becomes irrational. There is only ignorance. When he felt that the quantity and quality of the offerings to him were not as large as those of others, greed, ignorance, jealousy, arrogance, and suspicion would appear. He suspected whether they had an affair. Otherwise, she would not have treated him so well. Thinking wildly, he started to use this reason to slander them. He felt that he was more knowledgeable than Pratyekabuddha Shoshua. This is a sign of arrogance, considering oneself is superior to others. He also felt that he had more disciples than the Pratyekabuddha. This is another kind of arrogance. He also felt that he was more popular than the Pratyekabuddha, which is also a kind of arrogance. He also felt that he has done a lot of favors to the big donor and his wife. This is also a kind of arrogance. He also felt that supernatural powers were not the best proof in Dharma practice. He felt that he was the one who understood the Buddhist holy Dharma the best and was the most powerful. This is also a kind of arrogance. He also thought that the big donor's wife Jingyin was only confused by the supernatural powers temporarily. As long as he could crack it with other methods, he could regain the past respect and offerings. This is a kind of greed and ignorance. In other words, what caused these 8 things to appear? When we attempt to remedy it, do we only need to resolve these 8 things? In fact, we need to find the root cause, so that the ultimate vulnerable spot can be truly resolved. Many people, when they train their mind and analyze according to their guru's teaching, they realize that they have 8 bad habits after analysis. If I've changed these 8 bad habits, will I succeed? Will I succeed in mind training? The fact is that even if you change these 8 things, you only score 50 points. If you cannot find the root cause, the vulnerable spot, you will make the same mistake next time. The real mind training is not just analyzing your own feelings and thoughts. I've found these 8 problems. I've failed in these 8 problems. Instead, you must look for the vulnerable spot. For example, the vulnerable spot is whenever you are respected and supported with offerings from others, or people praise you very politely. You will be displeased when there are fewer words of praise. There exists such a vulnerable spot in you. This vulnerable spot will derive the 8 things I explained earlier. That is, you cannot just solve the 8 problems as single events. Because of this vulnerable spot, there will be other issues that continue to be derived from it, and even a prairie fire can destroy the grass. Therefore, we must look for the vulnerable spot. In the process of training one's mind, it is necessary to find the vulnerable spot. These vulnerable spots will cause you to develop greed, anger, ignorance, jealousy, arrogance, and suspicion. These are the vulnerable spots. So, what is the procedure for training one's mind? As explained in the previous session, firstly, one must accept the reality. If Yen Ruda had accepted the reality, he would have asked why did Jingyin supported with such good offerings to the Pratyekabuddha? Maybe it was their cause and condition. I'm studying Buddhism. This is the cause and condition. It could be that Jingyin owed the Pratyekabuddha in a previous life. They met, respected each other and made offerings because of the cause and condition. My cause and condition is different from that of the Pratyekabuddha. So, I don't have this offering. If he knew how to think like this, accepted the reality, understood the cause and effect, and understood his limitations of being able to see the cause and condition of only 500 lifetimes, he would have been willing to accept the reality, and avoided the disaster of descending into hell, implicating his disciples to fall into hell together. That is to say, the first step in training one's mind is acceptance. If you do not accept it, many things will arise, and these things will bind each other and affect many people. The second step is questioning. Question yourself, what are your own feelings and your thoughts? What do you feel? Suddenly I feel that fire burns in my heart, and jealousy arised. I suddenly hate her when I look at Jingyin. Why do I look at her but don't want to see her anymore? I am very angry when I see her. If you inspect your feelings carefully, You can find these 8 things from your analysis. Ask other related people. Why do you respect him so much when he plays acrobatics? Isn't my teaching good enough? Don't you believe in me because I didn't perform acrobatics? You can ask some related people for answers, and then study humbly. In the end, you may find that this Pratyeka Buddha does have reasons why he deserves respect from others. Why should I be obsessed with it? This may happen in the end. Ask someone who is wise. When you cannot understand or analyze these 8 things, and if you ask other people, they may say, yes, I think it's much better for him to do acrobatics than your lengthy speech. If you become angrier after asking, ask a wise person. At this time, it is best to ask your guru. If you do not have a guru, you can ask some reclusive master. The answers given by wise people would be very different from those given by ordinary people. Ordinary people's answers will only be based on their own personal feelings, while a wise person will analyze the overall situation, and after an integrated analysis, he will give you the most balanced, helpful and reasonable explanation. Only these will really help you. So, if you have a guru, ask the guru. If you don't, you just have to figure it out on your own. When you have synthesized these questions and obtained the information, you need to embark on the 3rd step, analysis. You need to have an insight and analyze your own feelings in order to analyze these 8 things, at least 8. Gain an insight into your own feelings and thoughts. What are your thoughts now? It turns out that you want to falsely accuse others. Stop immediately before turning into action. Slowly analyze your own feelings and thoughts. What is my own perception? Why do you hate Jingyin? What is your perception? In this way, you slowly analyze things, get insight into things. And what will happen afterwards? It is not over after analyzing these 8 things. You need to find out the root of the problem, the vulnerable spot, is. What exactly is your root cause? When you have resolved these 8 things, you have actually only resolved the 8 branches and leaves. These 8 branches and leaves are in fact derived from the roots, and must be uprooted before new branches and leaves are grown in the future. So, you must fully comprehend of your violation of precepts, or the level of your mind training. You need to know why you resent Jingyin so much whenever you think of her, and that you even cannot sleep. That is to say, if you resent someone so much, you have developed hatred and have already violated the precepts of the 5 precepts and the 10 wholesome deeds. You need to find the weakest key points in your mind training. In this case, it is when you are respected and received offerings, you will become insane when others offer you less respect and fewer offerings. This is your root cause. So, do not get overexcited when people respect you and support you with offerings, because you have entered the 1st step of the circle. There will be the 2nd, 3rd, and the 4th step. The 2nd and 3rd steps are that if you lose your respect and offerings, it will trigger your greed, anger, ignorance, jealousy, arrogance, and suspicion, because your roots have not been eradicated. You must find the root. After the search is complete, the 5th step is needed. Remedy. How to remedy, with a method that is most consistent with the Diamond Sutra. Now, we will teach the 5th step, the most important one. You must fully comprehend of your violation of precepts and the weakest key spot in mind training. When the root cause has been found, I would immediately be very happy when I am respected and supported with offerings from big donors. This is the attachment to the notion of a self, and the notion of others, the respect from others. If it involves someone who is superior to others, it also involves the notion of longevity. You will know that this is the root cause. It will appear when I receive offerings, or when I am respected by others, and this is the root cause. So, how do you remedy it? Firstly, every time you are respected by any sentient being, you must give rise to the mind of equality, respecting that sentient being in the same way. Do not think that you are superior to others, and others should respect you. If you think this way, your roots will never be eradicated. Instead, every time you are respected by someone, you immediately arouse a mind of equality, and feel that you should also respect him the same. When someone respects you, of course you must respect him in order to repay him. You should treat each other equally, and not be attached to what kind of sentient being he is. If a dog comes to lick your shoes and shows its respect to you, you should show the same respect to it by dedicating merits to it, so that it can learn Buddhism in the future, and be able to escape from the animal realm. This is how you repay the same respect to it for licking your shoes. You must arouse the same mind of equality to respect it. If you can do it, you are in line with the teachings of the Diamond Sutra. If you can do it, the first item will be lifted. The hatred that arises from being neglected by the donor's wife Jingyan would not appear. If you can achieve this remedy, a mentality of training one's mind, which is in line with the Diamond Sutra's teachings, you can definitely resolve the first item. If you can do it, you will achieve no longer abide in the notions of a self, of others, of sentient beings. You will not discriminate against even an animal, and you will equally respect it very much. Of course, if a superior person comes and respect you, and you also treat him or her equally, and you do not think he or she is superior to you, then you can achieve no longer abide in the notions of longevity. Secondly, every time you receive an offering, you must develop a mind of gratitude and a mind of repayment. You should not be attached to this sentient being, and to whether this sentient being should do this. If you can do this, you will be able to resolve the sixth point, feeling that you have given a lot to the big donor and his wife, and that you should be supported with offerings and respected. I am your guru, and you are my disciple. You must respect me. You should make offering to me. If you think like this, you cannot get rid of the root cause. As a Dharma practitioner, all of these are taboos, and even more so as other people's guru. When every sentient being makes offerings to you, you need to generate a mind of gratitude and a mind of repayment. Don't think that I have explained a lot of Buddhist holy Dharma to you, and I have worked very hard editing the videos and uploading them on YouTube. It is because of me that you have benefited from it. Of course, you must respect me, and you have not repaid me yet. You cannot think in this way. Otherwise, you would be abiding in notions. Then you have no way of complying with the teachings of the Diamond Sutra. You should be grateful. There is no such thing as deserving, only gratitude and repayment. Just remember nowness and equality. Why do we need to add the word nowness? The son said to his mother, "Of course you need to nurture me, because you gave birth to me." The mother replied to her son, "Of course not. It is you who took rebirth and came here. You competed against thousands of sentient beings to enter the mother's womb. It was you who fought for it." The son then said to his mother, "The whole world agrees that mothers must raise their sons. You should raise me, otherwise I can sue you. Although you consider it to be some kind of cause and effect, perhaps I owed you in the previous life, or you owed me, so we are so entangled in the present life. But we should not care about who owes who." The mother then replied her son, "If you want to succeed in your Dharma practice, don't talk about your past lives. Don't talk about the past 500 lives, because you can't see the cause and effect 500 lives ago. So, don't say whether you owe me, or I owe you, but only focus on the nowness. Pay no attention to whether we had anything in arrears in the past. Do not think about these anymore. Only think about nowness, this moment. If you support and respect me now, I should be treating you equally at nowness, and I don't calculate anymore. There is one more mentality to be added. I want to merge into oneness with you. Why should I be equal with you? Because equality is for merging. How to merge if there is inequality? Equality first, then merge. Otherwise, how can we merge into the Dharma realm in the future? We want to focus on nowness, this moment, and do not care about past lives anymore. If you care about whether he owed you in past lives, you have entered a dualistic or multiplistic state, and thus you cannot enter the Dharma realm. So, we must get used to such a mentality. In daily life, we should treat everyone equally at nowness and also merge into oneness. This kind of respect makes everyone equal, and everyone can merge into oneness. If I think you are a dog and I am a human, how can I merge with you? Rather, we feel nowness that everyone is equal, and everyone also has this awareness, so that we can merge into oneness. Everyone originally has the perfect enlightenment, but manifests into the appearance of a dog or other forms, because of a momentary deviation. The fact is that everyone is equal and also can merge into oneness. You need to think like this. Why do we need to have a mind of gratitude and repayment? As long as you are good to me at this moment, I shall be grateful and repay you. Then, how to be grateful and to repay? It is to be able to be equal at nowness. You and I are equal. I want to merge into oneness with you. My merit is your merit. So, when I attain Buddhahood, it means you can also attain Buddhahood. This explains repayment and gratitude. Gratitude means equally at nowness. Repayment means merge into oneness. You need to have this mentality. If you can do it, you can truly achieve no longer abide in the notions of a self, others, sentient beings, or even no longer abide in the notions of longevity, no superiority to others. Thus, you can truly remedy it. These 2 points help you remedy these. Thirdly, each time when you feel that you are respected because your knowledge and merits are at very high level, then you must think that there must be people with better knowledge and higher merits than you. You must know that all dharmas are omnipresent. So, you must not overestimate yourself, thinking that you deserve everything and that you are incredible. You should not be obsessed with it. Instead, you need to have a mind of repayment. Share your knowledge and dedicate your merits to all sentient beings. You must have this mentality. First, do not think you are superior to others, and so you deserve it. These disciples follow me, and I am so good to them. I often explain the Buddhist holy Dharma to them. Of course, they must respect me and make offerings to me. If you think like this, you consider yourself to be superior to others. Then you are attached to the notion of longevity. You feel that you are very knowledgeable, and forget that there are other people better than you. This will cause you biased and deviated. Therefore, apart from the mind of grateful and repayment, and not to think we deserve it, we must also have one more mind, that is to dedicate these merits to all sentient beings. Since there are people recognizing my knowledge and my merits, it means that I have the ability to help others. This is good news, being recognized by people that you can help others. Then you use these abilities to help people. So, you need to dedicate these merits back to all sentient beings and share the knowledge with them. How to share it? No one helps me to edit the video, so I edit it myself. Then I upload it on YouTube and share it. You must have this mentality. You should not think that I do not know how to edit, and given my age, I do not wish to learn. I have already recorded so many videos. You can do whatever you want. You can edit them if you like. At most, I will not ask for copyright fees. But this is not thorough enough. You need to feel thoroughly that, as there is no one helps me with the editing, it is better for me to learn it by myself. I really learned it by myself. After editing it, I can put it on YouTube, and then I can help more people and share it with all sentient beings. If you can do this, it means that you do not have the mindset of deserving it, but only gratitude and repayment, and you also have the equally at nowness and merge into oneness mentality to merge into oneness with all sentient beings. My knowledge is their knowledge. My merit is their merit. My realization is their realization. As such, we can make progress together, and will not regress together. Then you can make more progress. As you plant a lot of merit in this way, there will be room for improvement. If you can do it, you can resolve the second issue. The quantity and quality of the offerings you received are not as great as those received by the Pratyeka Buddha Shoshua. You must be able to remedy it, because you have already achieved equality. You will not feel unhappy because of fewer offerings. You can also resolve the third issue, thinking that you are more knowledgeable than Pratyeka Buddha Shoshua. You can also resolve the fourth issue, thinking that the number of your disciples is larger than that of Pratyeka Buddha Shoshua. You can also resolve the fifth issue, thinking that you are more famous than Pratyeka Buddha Shoshua. You can also resolve the eighth issue. When you do not have these things, you would not find every possible way to harm people and feel that you must get back what you should have before. You can then resolve all these 7 issues. If you can do it, you have already achieved no longer abide in the notion of a self, others and sentient beings. If you do not feel superior to others, it means that you have also achieved no longer abide in the notion of longevity. This is in line with the Diamond Sutra's teaching. I have already taught not to abide in the 4 notions. I have yet to explain neither abide in the notions of Dharma, nor abide in the notions of non-Dharma, which will be taught shortly. Now that you can achieve not to abide in the 4 notions, which is in line with the teachings of the Diamond Sutra, you must also have these 3 mentalities, which can help you enter the Dharma realm after death. Everyone has at least one chance to enter into the Dharma realm after death. To help oneself not to withdraw from it easily, one needs to practice this gradually in daily life, and one cannot reach the sky in a single bound. It needs to be honed slowly in your daily life, and when it is honed slowly, you will become very powerful, and you will be able to enter smoothly into the Dharma realm in the future. This is a mentality that Dharma practitioners must have. Avoid putting oneself in the moral high ground. I see many people who are not Dharma practitioners often put themselves in the moral high ground. The son said to his mother, for example, "If you hit me again, I'll report you to the police." Teachers told me that a mother shouldn't punish her son physically. Now you're wrong, so I can sue you. This is an example of moral high ground. Therefore, avoid putting yourself in the moral high ground. Otherwise, you will easily blind your rationality, wisdom, and awareness, and you will miss many things. These are called remedy. Many Dharma practitioners, especially those of esoteric Buddhism, feel that they can visualize themselves as the deity Buddha, and they feel that they are superior to others. With this kind of mentality, it is impossible to succeed in Dharma practice. Instead, it is the inducement to the violation of precepts. Some people say that one must visualize himself to be a deity, and this is the solidity of Buddha's arrogance. I hope that you do not have such an arrogant thought. If you think in this way, you will not be able to become a Buddha. You just think that you look like a Buddha, but your mind does not. So, do not stand on the moral high ground and think that you are superior to others, including visualizing yourself to be a deity. Why should you visualize yourself to be a deity? It is for the sake of other sentient beings to become a Buddha together. Only when everyone is restored to the state of oneness, the perfect enlightenment, can Buddhahood be attained. It is not just about similar appearance, but also the mind and the awareness, and so you need to pay attention to it. Pay attention to this paragraph in the Diamond Sutra, if these sentient beings adopt such notions in their minds. If the minds of these sentient beings are attached to a certain form, that is, they are attached to the notions of a self, others, sentient beings or longevity. It means that these 4 notions will all appear immediately, as explained earlier. As one is attached to certain form, other forms will also appear at the same time. If they adopt the notions of Dharma, they are attached to the notions of a self, others, sentient beings or longevity. Why is this so? If they adopt the notions of non-dharma, they are attached to the notions of a self, others, sentient beings, or longevity. As such, they should neither adopt dharma nor non-dharma. No matter it is the notion of dharma or non-dharma, one should not be attached to it, because as long as the attachment occurs, the four notions will appear. We will explain this again later. For this reason, because of this principle, the Tathagata always says, so the Lord Buddha often says, you bhikshus, you Dharma practitioners, know my teachings, you must know the teachings that I am explaining. Like a raft metaphor, like the metaphor of a raft. Once ashore, you have to put down the raft. Do not cling to those teachings. The Dharma should be abandoned, let alone the non-Dharma. Even the correct method must be abandoned, let alone those incorrect methods. Even unconditioned dharmas have to be abandoned, let alone conditioned dharmas. So, it means that you should not be attached to anything. I have not explained the seventh issue yet, which is the most difficult one to resolve, feeling that the supernatural powers are not the best proof of Dharma practice. This understanding and truth are correct. Yang Ruda failed here. He felt that he was not wrong. I think that he violated the precept by performing supernatural power. It's wrong. It's just because you people in the world don't understand. I want to tell people that you're wrong. Only in this way can I belittle you, because you really did something wrong. In fact, there is nothing wrong for Yang Ruda thinking in this way. Because its main point is correct. The fact is that supernatural powers are indeed not the best proof of Dharma practice. Whether your awareness has been raised to close to 100% of the perfect enlightenment is the best proof. When you are close, what you explain will be different. You will easily get to the point and are very thorough. People will perceive that your awareness is close to 100%. This is the best proof. It is not a matter of playing acrobatics or magical power. The problem lies here. He thought that the principle was correct. But he could not use this reason to slander others. He could only provide correct explanations and preach the truth. He could have explained it to his 500 disciples. We must remember the truth. We mustn't show off supernatural powers. Supernatural powers are like acrobatics. They are a certain kind of ability that cannot be used as a proof of raising awareness in Dharma practice. You can preach this truth everywhere, so that other people will not be ignorant. You can do this, but you cannot use this as a justification for targeting other people's privacy. This is not a question of right and wrong, but a question of cause and effect. Some people feel that their rationale is right, and they are deeply entangled in right and wrong. In short, they feel that their rationale is right and therefore they can stand on the high moral ground and have the right to attack others. They have forgotten that this is not a question of right and wrong. Perhaps everyone has different religious background and different reasoning. Maybe in other people's religions, they believe that the higher the supernatural powers the more it can be proven, and so everyone is entangled endlessly. Don't fall into the trap of debating right and wrong, but rather talk about cause and effect. Many people think that as long as their behavior is correct and is a virtuous cause, they believe that they will definitely get good retributions, and there is no reason to believe that they will get evil retributions. Is it not true that planting virtuous causes gets virtuous retributions, and planting evil causes gets evil retributions? As such, the fact that karma is inconceivable is ignored. Now I will explain that it is not like this. According to the law of causes and effects, no matter what cause you plant, there will always be karmic retribution. Because you are now in a world of dualistic or multiplistic state, anything you do will have retributions. A dualistic or multiplistic state means that there could be third, fourth, fifth, or sixth dimension, that is, one virtuous cause you plant may lead to many retributions. Some are virtuous retributions, and some are evil retributions. Why is it so strange? How does the law of causes and effects work? What exactly constitutes retributions of causes and effects? Let's explain it now, and you will understand why the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni said that karma is inconceivable. How hard is it to understand? Is it not true that planting virtuous causes and reaping virtuous retributions, planting evil causes and reaping evil retributions, planting melons to get melons, planting beans to get beans? It cannot be inconceivable. It cannot be unimaginable and complicated. Is it very contradictory? The Lord Buddha Shakyamuni said that karma is inconceivable. This is what the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni said. This is true. How inconceivable is it? This is actually a mystery of the ages. Many people have fallen into this mystery of the ages and failed, and they have deviated in their Dharma practice. In fact, most Dharma practitioners have failed at this very point. They truly believe that planting virtuous causes will get virtuous retributions, and do not know how to explain the fact that karma is inconceivable. Now we will explain it with this case. To give an example, in this case, one has committed evil speech karma. What is evil speech karma? It is the act of speech that creates some cause and effect. This is the evil speech karma. There are virtuous causes and evil causes. Many people think that as long as the following points are met, it is virtuous cause. For example, as long as my starting point is to help people, to save people, to help sentient beings, or to save sentient beings, this is a virtuous cause. For example, in order to break people's superstition towards supernatural powers, I, Yen Ruda, asked my 500 disciples to attack him. Secondly, some people think that what I do is justified. These arguments are, for example, supernatural powers are not the best proof of Dharma practice. This is true and it is correct. If you do not believe it, ask a few more wise people and look it up in the Buddhist sutras. You will find that this is really the case. This argument is correct. However, he is now deceiving people with some supernatural powers. Once someone has made offerings to him, he will perform acrobatics. This will destroy such precious teachings and the propagation of the holy Dharma. Of course, we must attack him. So, many people feel that they can slander others or use a large number of disciples to spread the word. You must remember that a virtuous cause cannot be used as a reason for creating evil karma. Why not? Because your evil deeds will involve evil retributions. Do you know how serious the retributions will be? First of all, there will be karma for slandering. For example, you say that others commit adultery, but they have not committed adultery. Second, there is karma for slandering the saint. The saint has cultivated to a certain level, and has a certain ability. Why do you want to slander him? Many people respect him as a saint. Third, you have to bear the karma of related people who arouse their hatred. Many people respect him as a holy person. If you slander him, they will hate you very much. So do the beings in the spiritual realm. They will resent you knowing that you have slandered him. You have to bear all such karma. Fourth, there is karma created for all bystanders who developed hatred, including all sentient beings of the 6 realms. Fifth, you have to bear the karma of all other sentient beings who follow suit. For example, there is a person who follows suit. He said that as long as we hold a correct principle, and when we realize that he has really done something wrong, we can do everything we should, including slandering him, leaving a message online to defame him, or releasing the photos of him and his family to attack him. Also make use of those capable and noble disciples, so that someone who follows suit would feel confident to do anything to harm people. You have to bear all these evil karmas that were planted. Why? Because you set an example and he learns it from you. You are connected with him, and you have a share in bearing all the evil karma. So some people may say, I've only slandered 2 people. One is the wife of the big donor, and the other is the Pratyeka Buddha. I've only slandered 2 people. If I receive retributions in the future, let them slander me. If each of them slanders me once, I should have only 2 retributions. It turns out that's not the case. Apart from going to hell to endure all kinds of sufferings for a very long time, and even after attaining Buddhahood, one has to suffer the remaining retributions for 7 days. As you can imagine, why is it so complicated? Just look at these 5 points described above. Sixth, the karma of all sentient beings who are directly or indirectly hurt. They will of course curse and retaliate when they are hurt. The karma derived from their revenge will be related to you, including the karma of the relatives of those 500 disciples, or the karmic creditor. The karmic creditor originally thought that he could get revenge and thought he could be caught in the trap that he had set, but you dragged him into hell. He would not go to hell to find him. The revenge would be delayed for several kalpa. He would be very angry and blame you for delaying his revenge. If I don't hack him twice with my own hands, my anger will not go. The result is that he has to wait for several kalpa more, and then he will come after you to retaliate. So, you will find all these things to be very complicated, and such kind of karma could increase exponentially, and so don't do it. Some people might say, I didn't slander him for no reason. What I said is the truth. To give an example, if he really commits adultery, and I am only telling the truth now. For example, the great donor's wife does have an affair with the Pratyeka Buddha. What has been said is true or reasonable. For example, I want them to be punished because they have really committed adultery. I hope that the big donor will not continue to be deceived, so I should expose them. Let me explain it now. If what you are doing now, what you are saying, is true, not false, not a slander, not a smear, what evil cause would you plant? You would say that I am only telling the truth. I am not telling a lie. I employ a large number of disciples to spread the word widely. I want to help more people. I think they deserve the punishment. But you have to remember, can virtuous cause be used as a reason for creating evil karma? You may think that these 2 are not bad karma, but I can tell you that these 2 are really bad karma. What retributions will be involved in the bad karma? First, you have to bear the karma of causing the big donor to lose face and be ashamed of himself. He made offerings to you and respected you by asking his wife to take care of everything to make offerings to you. They treated you with such a courtesy. But now you are asking many people to go around spreading rumors and slanders, speaking ill of my wife. Regardless of whether it is true or not, it is my own family affair. I do not want other people to know about my wife's adultery. Even if my wife has committed adultery, I will speak to her to solve the problem privately. I do not want others to know. Besides, I am the richest man. I am highly reputed. I am a man of virtues who provides offerings. Everyone knows that I am a great donor with virtues. If you do this, how can I face everybody? Moreover, my family is highly respected. All my family members and relatives think that I have a happy family with a good reputation. However, now I am being slandered by rumors everywhere that I have a bad wife who commits adultery with someone else. Where is the reputation of my whole family? We would feel ashamed and dare not raise our heads. Don't think that you can just say it because it is true. Don't think that you should spread it widely because it is the truth with justification, and you are doing it to help others and prevent them from being obsessed with magical powers. Have you considered the situation of others? So you have planted bad karma again. What would happen when you interfere with other people's privacy, plus the karma of being misinformed or distorted? There was once an experiment. In the classroom, the teacher said to the first student in the first row, I now whisper something to you in your ear. It is very simple and not complicated. Then you turn around and say the same thing to the student behind. And then pass it on one by one to the last student. After listening to the teacher, the student said to the one behind him, then the next one said to the one behind, and so on to the last student in the last row. The teacher asked him to stand up and tell what he had just heard. It was completely different from what it was with exaggerated details. It was completely distorted from the original. That is to say, you are now talking nonsense on the internet. Then you ask your disciples to do the same. Or what you say is true, and what you say is right, at the time you say it. I say 1 + 1 = 2. But when it was passed to the end, 1 + 1 does not equal 2. And it continues to be passed on, which completely distorting the facts. It would turn out to be that the big donor's wife is very bad, really bad. She did something to seduce the Pratyeka, who then lost control. So it would be spread into chaos, and become something totally different. Some even say that they have harmed another person, and that another person has harmed another person. It is all their problem, and it will be spread into something totally different. You have a share of the evil karma of all misinformation and distorted facts. This is the consequence of interfering with other people's privacy and indiscriminate misinformation. All the people involved will arouse hatred, and you will have a share of those karma too. Some people will not believe it, even if it is true. When people do not believe it, they will arouse their hatred. Why do you spread these things everywhere to harm people? No, they must stop you or do something to retaliate. So, karma will be generated, and these retaliations will be endless. The karma of hatred is generated by all bystanders, because they do not believe it, such as someone in the spiritual realm, heaven realm, or hell realm. Although he cannot see the karmic force of causes and effects of many lives, he is very fond of this Pratyeka. You slander him in such a way, and he does not believe it, and so he will retaliate. You will have a share in the karma of all other sentient beings who follow suit. Some people will imitate others and do some extreme wrongdoings. For example, they would slander people with exaggerated details. Some may tell the truth directly, and then use other methods to spread it widely. One person passes it on to 500 people, who will pass it on to another 500 people. You can calculate the number of people using this geometric multiplication. These are extremely wrong behaviors. You will bear the karma of all the sentient beings, who are directly or indirectly affected and harmed. You will also bear the karma of the 500 disciples' relatives and the karmic creditors. So the virtuous cause cannot be used as a reason for creating evil karma. Even if what you are saying now is right, you cannot talk nonsense. What can you do? As I said earlier, if you feel that you are right, you must give your reason and explain why using supernatural powers as proof is incorrect. But you cannot use other people's privacy to make another kind of speech. So, you have to remember that you cannot do that. If my starting point is right, would I be rewarded with virtuous retributions? Yes, you would. Other people may appreciate what you have done. Some people may do something because of the truth you tell. They will no longer believe in this person because of your help. It turns out that this person is actually very bad. They will no longer believe in the Pratyeka and follow his teachings. The truth you tell may help some people, and of course these people will repay you. But when they follow suit, there might be a chance for misinformation. I think I can do anything if it's right. Similarly, misinformation or misleading will occur, and you will have to bear your share of evil retribution that arises. If it is virtuous retribution, you will also have a share in it, but in the case of evil retribution, you will have a greater share to bear it. If you bear less virtuous retribution, it may not necessarily lead to trouble. However, if you bear more evil retribution, it can be a big deal, because you will go to hell and suffer. So, we must remember that this is not a question of right and wrong, virtuous and evil. Do not do it simply because you feel it is right. Other people may think that you are wrong. I think this is good. Although you think it is good, you may not be aware that your behavior will cause other evil consequences. So, you should not get involved in this matter. This is actually a question of cause and effect. It is better to recognize that any cause has a chance to have a certain effect. It is better to be careful in this respect. This is a question of cause and effect. Because if the retribution is not good, it will make you unable to get out of samsara. No matter how you practice the Dharma, it will be useless. Or even if you cultivate very well, it will be completely in vain. Is this not a waste? So, no matter what you do, it will cause different levels of virtuous and evil retributions. The virtuous cause does not necessarily lead to an absolute virtuous retribution. Absolute means that it is not one-to-one, as simple as you think, but will be mixed with virtuous and evil retribution. Both will exist at the same time based on your actions you performed. Because there are many gray areas, many causes and conditions are added, which may even trigger the evil karma of your own virtuous and evil karmic portfolio. All will appear together, and then you will be unable to withstand it. The reason being that this world is operating in a dualistic or multiplistic state where mind powers are intertwined. That is to say, some causes will involve many conditions in this world. These conditions, mixed with these causes, will lead to different effects. All your actions are derived from your mind power, which will affect the mind power of the entire network. An easy way to explain this is when you write something casually on the internet. You will find that many people's reactions are different. Some say it is right, some say it is wrong, and some say it is gray area. Why are there different reactions? It is because anything we do, or the mind power on the network triggered by our own mind power, will produce different responses and behaviors due to different levels of nature of mind by different individuals. Some people will respond virtuously because their nature of minds are virtuous. Some will respond viciously because their nature of minds are evil, even if they write virtuous things. It is all due to the different levels of their nature of minds. You are now doing something publicly and affect the entire network. Of course, there will be different responses. So, retributions of causes and effects will continue to evolve in response to these reactions and acts. After all, it is all because the statement you posted which led to some virtuous and evil responses. When these evil responses are seen by others and they follow suit, the karma that they generate will also be borne by you, albeit a smaller proportion. If I casually write a sentence on the internet, there is a chance that I will suffer a lot of bad retributions, the ones I can hardly imagine. It turns out to be so complicated. So, do not write casually, and it is best not to write it. I can tell you that I have never written any comment on any public network, because any comment, even if it is absolutely correct, will have a chance of turning into trouble. Only one sentence, how many causes and effects could there be? It is not surprising that there could be misleading elements. If you are not careful, you will mislead others. I did not mean it. I thought it was a correct statement, but something went wrong. You can see that my Dharma teachings are normally very long, more than 2 hours. Why? It is because the cause and effect must be clearly explained, so that the chance of making mistakes and the chance of being misunderstood or misleading will be small, and the chance of being able to help others will be high. For this reason, I would rather spend longer time explaining it. You must remember that the cause and effect that arises is not as simple as one-to-one as you imagine, but endless. If you post a comment on the internet casually, you could be attacked endlessly. Right and wrong are often entangled, very entangled. Right, wrong, neutral, are often entangled and incomprehensible. You are completely unable to understand how that person responds in this way. You are completely unable to understand how this karma is derived and how it continues to be derived. It turns out that it would involve the realms of animals, hungry ghosts, hells or heavens. It turns out that there is so much karma involved, and no matter where it goes, there will be retributions. It turns out to be so complicated, inconceivable, and unimaginably complicated. This is the reason why the Lord Shakyamuni Buddha said, "Karma is inconceivable. It is beyond your imagination." Even a well-intentioned and simple comment, once it is made public, it will trigger the entanglement of cause and effect on the entire network. Remember that a person's comments involve previous grudges and feuds. In short, it involves a lot of things, and that is why sentient beings will continue to reincarnate due to karma being inconceivable. If you really want to practice the Dharma, to be liberated from reincarnation, and enter the Dharma realm without falling back out, I advise you to stay away from all things that are public. Public means getting drawn into collective karma. Remember to stay away from anything that involves collective karma. Just a light touch with a pen can cause problems. Even responding right or wrong on the internet would get into trouble. So, remember not to touch anything related to collective karma. Why? Because you want to leave the world of a dualistic or multiplistic state and enter the state of oneness. But you find a public and the most complicated collective karma, and jump into the vortex of this trap, stir it up. Only stirring it for a while will get you into trouble. How do you liberate yourself from the cycle of karmic existence? There is no hope to be liberated from the cycle of karmic existence, because there are a large group of karmic creditors who will chase you to a blind alley. This group of karmic creditors is also difficult to deal with, let alone the other group from past lives. How can you deal with them? So, remember to stay away from it. Therefore, even though Lord Buddha Shakyamuni had repaid countless kalpa of time and suffered endless pain, even after he attained Buddhahood, he still had to suffer from residual retributions. So, one must enter the Dharma realm, the state of oneness, to truly get rid of these entanglements. There is only one way. Therefore, we must practice the Dharma diligently with the goal to attain Buddhahood. Otherwise, it will be endless. Don't think that I can wait for a while to escape from samsara and to become a Buddha. To wait for a while could be 91 kalpa. Even the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni took 91 kalpa before attaining Buddhahood. Practicing the Dharma is not to get caught up in the problems of the dualistic or multiplistic state of right and wrong, yes and no, good and evil. The goal of Dharma practice is to restore the perfect enlightenment of the state of oneness. Only after attaining Buddhahood can one be able to be liberated from the cycle of karmic existence in order to save sentient beings and also enter the Dharma realm, and completely free from the entanglement of endless karma. Therefore, as Dharma practitioners in our spiritual path, we should not be too proud of ourselves and think that we are very powerful. I am not afraid of these karma, and I am not afraid of continuing to be entangled. This will lead to an inconceivable result beyond your imagination. You will not succeed in your Dharma practice. If you really want to succeed in your Dharma practice, listen to what I say. Try to simplify your daily life. The simpler and clearer the better. In addition, try your best not to get involved in any karma if you can. Try to repent, or use other Dharma practice methods to repay for your own karma as much as possible. Plant as many merits as you can. Your merits are not as great as those of the Lord Buddha. Besides, he had to suffer from the remaining retribution. So, when the retribution comes, we must accept it following our mind training procedure. If you resist it, you will continue to be entangled. Therefore, any method to resolve must apply Diamond Sutra's oral pith instructions. Should not abide anywhere, and do not abide in notions, do not be obsessed with any form. Also, not to abide anywhere to develop one's mind where the mind is the awareness. How is it explained? Let's explain it. As I said, the last one is the most difficult to resolve. I will explain it to you now. If you think that supernatural powers are not the best proof of Dharma practice, this kind of perception is absolutely correct. This is the truth, but how should this be resolved? If you feel that this is bothering you, and you feel that you should attack those people, you must think with this mindset. No matter how correct your rationale or method is, you cannot use it as a reason for any behavior that may lead to deviation from the right path. Behavior is karma. Remember, this mentality is the one that conforms to the Diamond Sutra. If you can do it, you can resolve the seventh issue, which is the most difficult one. Why? Because this is no longer abide in the notions of Dharma. If you often feel that this is the truth, this truth is a method for our Dharma practice. How can I not have it? The Diamond Sutra requires you to have no longer abide in the notions of Dharma. The notions of Dharma refers to some correct methods, the truth. Supernatural powers cannot be used as proof of Dharma practice. This is the truth. If you are obsessed, thinking that this will prove that Pratyekabuddha is wrong, you would use this correct method to attack him. If you do this, you will be abiding in forms, the form of Dharma. How do you resolve it? It is necessary to accomplish no longer abide in the notions of Dharma. I will no longer be attached. Should not abide anywhere and do not abide in notions. I am not persistent to think this is the absolute truth. There is no so-called absolute truth. I will not use it to attack the Pratyekabuddha. In this way, you can achieve no longer abide in the notions of Dharma. This is the most difficult one to resolve. Nor abide in the notions of non-Dharma. What is the notions of non-Dharma? It is the kind of thoughts that I won't use this so-called supreme method, or being clever not to use such a method, and I can really achieve unconditioned Dharma. You cannot even have such a thought. If you can do this, you can achieve nor abide in the notions of non-Dharma. You need to have this kind of awareness without clinging to it. What kind of awareness? That is, not to abide in the four notions, neither abide in the notions of Dharma, and nor abide in the notions of non-Dharma. You can have the awareness of these six forms. How can one have such kind of awareness? It is the four mentalities to practice the Dharma in daily life, as you have just been taught. There are many more. You are taught of these four for the time being. As long as you have these four mentalities, you can arouse these kinds of awareness. This is not to abide anywhere to develop one's mind. I neither abide in the notions of others, of a self, of sentient beings, of longevity, nor abide in the notions of Dharma and non-Dharma, and I am able to generate this kind of awareness. This is called develop one's mind. With this mind, I will not abide in these six forms. I can also apply it to resolve any issue I encounter, and know how to remedy. This kind of awareness is precisely develop one's mind. I shall not be attached to them. This is to teach you how to apply Diamond Sutra's teaching in daily life to be in line with the cultivation of our minds. Let's take another look. The Lord Buddha said, "Because of my jealousy, I slandered the Pratyekabuddha with the past lives of the 500 arhats. We fell into hell together due to this evil speech karma, and suffered tortures of being fried and cooked, and boiled in wak soup." In this passage, you must remember not to take lightly the consequence of evil speech karma. I know that many people will take it lightly. I only say a few words casually about him, casually saying he is a bad person on the internet. This person commits adultery, and so he is a criminal and should be punished. Even if I only say a few words casually, I would have to suffer in hell for 91 kalpa. One cannot endure it even half of the term, 4 to 5 kalpa. So, remember not to take it lightly, and talk or write nonsense, and don't make comments rashly. Don't do any of these. Why? We need to simplify our world. We need to clarify our world. Our world is one in the state of oneness, temporarily in a dualistic or multiplistic state. In order to turn it into the state of oneness, we need to simplify it. Would you please not to create too much evil speech karma? And don't be discouraged. You should not feel that you can never be liberated, because you have fallen into hell. If the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni could be liberated, does it mean that you can also be liberated? That's not the case. Everyone has his own cause and condition. The Lord Buddha Shakyamuni was able to be liberated from samsara, because he repented. Yang Ruda was also a Dharma practitioner, who had 500 high-level disciples. He had definitely achieved to a certain level. He should also know how to repent, and one day he realizes that he has done something wrong and repents, then he will have a chance to be liberated. After he is liberated, he will have the opportunity to become a Buddha. Indeed, he has already become a Buddha. So, don't be discouraged. Let's explain the mind training procedure again. We have taught a little more today. The first one is acceptance. If you cannot cross the first step, don't expect you can take the second, third, fourth, or fifth step. If you do not accept it, you will definitely do a lot of things. Those things will make you dizzy and fall into hell in an instant. Then how can you still have the opportunity to do the second, third, fourth, and fifth steps? So, remember that the first step is very important and you cannot skip it. You have to accept it. Second, questioning, which includes solutions. Although it is accepting, the evil retribution is really miserable. For example, I have fallen into hell. It is not that I'd accept the reality that I will be in hell forever. You have to question and sincerely ask wise people what to do. You must perform repentance, and then explain the whole process of this matter with details, so that you can dispel everyone's anger. As such, you can slowly relieve your evil retribution, or repay the grave karma with light requital. So, acceptance does not mean that you do not resolve the matter. Don't get it wrong. Acceptance means that you do not mess up the matter immediately, do defamation, or express opinions on the internet. Do not do these. Accept it first. After acceptance, ask questions which will gradually lead to solutions. Third, analyze. One has to analyze it after questioning, instead of applying it indiscriminately. Search for the root after analysis. Because my ultimate goal is not just to solve this problem. If I only want to solve this problem, the first 3 steps have already done it. But I am practicing the Dharma following the Diamond Sutra. I also want to enter the Dharma realm without being withdrawn. Of course, I must search for the root and eradicate the root cause so that I can enter the Dharma realm safely without being withdrawn again. So, what are the 4th and 5th steps for? They are for you to be liberated from samsara. What are the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd steps for? They are to resolve some of the problems in the present world, and of course they are helpful to our Dharma practice, so that the 4th and 5th steps can be completed. In other words, do worldly Dharma and supramundane Dharma rely on these 5 steps? Yes. The 5th step is remedy. The 4th step is root seeking. It is to fully comprehend of one's own violation of precepts, or the weakest crucial point of the mind training. Remedy one after another one, and start from the worst, and then the one that is not so bad. Treat them one by one gradually until all are remedied. The remedy must conform to the Diamond Sutra. What are the things that do not conform to the Diamond Sutra? They are those that belong to the dualistic or multiplistic state, and no matter how they are remedied, there is no way to enter the Dharma realm, or be liberated from the cycle of karmic existence. Is there any way to enter the Dharma realm, and will not be withdrawn? That is, when you remedy it, you have to use the best method, the most thorough method. Do not use an imperfect, or a defective method that only works half with low scores. What is the best method? It is the teaching of the Diamond Sutra, which is the best. When you are just a beginner, who is not very good in your Dharma practice, you can only understand the Diamond Sutra a little after listening to so many lessons. It does not matter, do it slowly. When you have a preliminary outline and conclusion, use the correct Dharma practice method to resolve it one by one. Just like what I did earlier, make a list of the 8 issues. What are the root causes of these 8 issues? Search for the root cause, then teach you how to remedy it. Moreover, analyze how to match the 4 notions, neither abide in the notions of Dharma, nor abide in the notions of non-Dharma, and what kind of mentality that can be used for everyone to achieve the state of equality and integration. I have taught you that these are the correct Dharma practice method. They need to be resolved one by one. What is the goal? The goal is not just to solve the problem, but to achieve, should not abide anywhere and do not abide in notions, so that my nature of mind does not arouse any greed, hatred, ignorance, jealousy, arrogance and suspicion. But I can tell you, you will definitely have it, because you have not yet become a Buddha. Of course, you do. Should you be discouraged? Of course not. Don't be discouraged, because I am making a progress and there is still a lot of room for improvement. We will definitely have a little bit of greed, thinking that he has not made any offerings to me, only fruit, and nothing else. There must be a little bit of greed. There may be a little bit of hatred, thinking that he is really bad, and has not made sufficient offerings to me. Ignorance is being foolish, thinking that there must be something going on with him. Jealousy is being jealous, thinking that he treats others better. Arrogance is thinking that he should have made offerings to me. Suspicion is to doubt whether he has done some bad things. So, you will definitely have it, but you will gradually reduce it, as long as you follow this method. The goal is, should not abide anywhere and do not abide in notions. If you find yourself attached to the notion of others and notions of a self, remove them, and you will gradually make progress. If you find it too troublesome to follow the 5 steps, and there are so many things to do, and you would rather sleep, or watch TV, when you have time than train your mind and to resolve it, the consequences will be very serious. The severity, in the case of Buddha Shakyamuni, is that he had to go through 91 kalpa before he could become a Buddha. Can you become a Buddha after 91 kalpa? If you do not resolve it, I think you will not be able to become a Buddha even if you add a few zeros to the number. Don't think that the Lord Buddha Shakyamuni was so powerful that he had to go through 91 kalpa, and you think you need 910 kalpa. Don't be delusional, as you probably need to add a few more zeros to the number. So, in order not to have this serious consequence, you must train your mind. If you do, you may be able to become a Buddha in this lifetime. It is not surprising that you can become a Buddha in this lifetime. You should encourage yourself, as it is really possible, and don't think the chance is very low. But you must remember that ultimately you need to achieve not to abide anywhere to develop one's mind. How do you achieve not to abide anywhere to develop one's mind? What is the mind? It is generated through the awareness to practice the correct Dharma. What is the correct Dharma practice method? As I have already explained it earlier, these are the things you have to do after seeking the roots. After seeking the roots, you must not to abide anywhere to develop one's mind. The two influence each other. If you remedy it well, you can achieve not to abide anywhere to develop one's mind. These are all interrelated. So, how to train one's mind in order to be consistent with the teachings of the Diamond Sutra? Once again, there are 4 mindsets taught today, and the teachings of remedy has been explained. First, every time you are respected by any sentient beings, do not think that no one has ever respected you because you are not a guru. There is always someone who calls you Miss, Mr., and Mrs. This is respect, and any respect counts. Any sentient being, such as a dog waving its tail in front of you, is a form of respect. Every time you are respected by any sentient being, you must develop a sense of equality. Respect that sentient being in the same way, and do not cling to what kind of sentient being he is. I will not respect an ex-prisoner, who is wicked and with a foul mouth. You cannot do this, as you will not succeed in practicing the Dharma. Don't think that he will not succeed in practicing the Dharma, it is you. Second, you need to develop a mind of gratitude and repayment every time you receive an offering. Do not cling to whether this sentient being should do this or not. Third, you feel that you are respected because your knowledge and merits are very high. You must think that there is bound to have people with better knowledge and higher merits than your own, and you must not be obsessed. In addition, you must have the mind of repayment to dedicate your knowledge and merits to all sentient beings. Therefore, dedication of merits must be done every day. My disciples are required to do this every day after the Dharma practice. It is a rule. Also remember to share all your merits, knowledge and abilities with all sentient beings. Fourth, no matter how correct your reasoning is, you cannot cite it as a reason to commit any behavior that may lead to deviation from the right path. There is no deserve, only gratitude and repayment. This is a mentality of being equally at nowness and merge into oneness. There are no notions of self, people, sentient beings and longevity. You should not feel that you are superior to others, and in this way you can achieve the no notion of longevity. Neither abide in the notions of Dharma means, should not abide anywhere, and do not abide in notions. Do not think that any Dharma method is absolutely correct, and do not cling to it. Regarding nor abide in the notions of non-Dharma, do not think that if I don't do this, it means I have done my best and can enter the state of oneness. This is not the case. In short, do not be attached to the above-mentioned awareness and the mentalities just explained. Do not be attached to these. That is, not to abide anywhere to develop one's mind, and in this way you can then arouse the awareness. The teachings today end here.